Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Lou Rosalia, and this is Crew Call. Today, I have surrounded myself with some amazing professionals in the media and entertainment production industry, and we're going to talk some stuff about current events, news, the actual business, and I think what you're going to find interesting about this show is their perspective, because they're in the industry, they see things differently than me, the layman, who knows little about the industry, sees things. And I'm sure I'll get Joe to tell us a story after I do the intros quickly on how he watches TV as a multi-year veteran in the industry. So, welcome. Let's go around and say hello to everybody. Joe Scacciaferro.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
You got it, buddy. Scott Glozzi.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here. Thanks, Lou.
And Frank Scacciaferro. Okay, so here's where I wanted to start. I finally caved this weekend and I bought Discovery Plus. And the reason is because I started watching the series on my regular cable package, and they showed me 2 episodes, and then before you know it, I couldn't find anything else. So I'm like, holy cow, now I got to buy another subscription, another who knows what. So you've got these pluses, these maxes, you got a whole bunch of stuff out there for streaming. And I started to do a little research to figure out what was what, and I came across a really interesting article. And the article was how people positioned, the different companies are positioning their streaming services. So, for example, Netflix, they're promising big deals, original movies, the greatest directors, just an amazing amount of new content. Disney, on the other hand, is kind of saying, yeah, you know what? We're going to do it our way. We're not going to promise you a whole bunch of new stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to take control of our IP, and then if you want to see that type of stuff, you got to come to us. And the other thing that they're doing is they are not allowing binge watching, which is a whole different thing, like they did with Mandalorian. And I know we have a couple of Mandalorian fans. Scott, did you binge watch Mandalorian, or did you watch it over time?
Well, actually, being the Star Wars fan that I am, I couldn't. There's no way I would have been able to wait. I had to watch one episode as soon as it came out, and then wait a couple days, let them go by, and watch it again.
Right.
So I think that actually maybe I feel like that built a little more anticipation for the next episode. Because not only can you sit down whenever you want and start that first episode and then just fly through all of them, but you kind of your week goes by, you're building up, you're seeing trailer after trailer, and they're coming out with more. Little teases here and there, and then it kind of just makes you more excited for that next episode. So,
yeah,
I kind of agree with what they're doing. I think it gives you that more, a sense of discovery and adventure. You know what I mean? And it kind of makes you want to wait.
Yeah.
So I watched episode by episode for sure.
So it's kind of TV like in the old days. Frank, are you a binge watching type guy, or do you prefer to?
Yeah, I mean, I totally binge shows, but after reading about that, because I read into it a little bit, and I kind of thinking back to my childhood, where it's you had to wait for the TGIF lineup on Nickelodeon. It was whatever the episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark and those things. There was no such thing as binge watching.
Yeah.
So it was more turning that into an event.
Right.
Okay, we're all sitting down as a family. Or sitting down, going over your friend's house, and it kind of turned it into going out to the movies or something like that, where it's something specific that you look forward to, and you turn it into a whole event. So to Glaz's point of building that anticipation and everything, it was before all the binge watching of Netflix and all that. Game of Thrones, HBO used to do that. They only let things out once a week, and it was that Sunday, and we would have our friends come over and watch everything, and I don't hate it.
Yeah. Do you think he would? Do you think it's a strong enough factor that it would be a buying decision or not? I won't do Disney because they don't allow binge watching.
No, I think Disney's way too powerful for people to not do that, and there's just too much.
They'll come to your house and break your legs if you don't buy it.
The mouse is strong. Joe, let me ask you a more production-oriented question.
Before you do, could I jump in on that? Because I'm sitting here and I'm amazed that I grew up with appointment television.
Right.
They didn't, to the degree that I did.
Right.
And I don't like it. Because when I look at episodic work,
yes,
when you put it together, it's a feature film.
Yeah.
And I like that continuity, especially that, because I don't have nearly the background Gloz has. And I'm sorry, I can't call you Scott. I don't have nearly the background that Gloz has with Star Wars.
Right.
But so I needed the storyline to be continuous so that I could keep everything fresh in my head. Because
Right.
otherwise, a week went by, I probably wouldn't even, oh crap, that was on 2 days ago. I wouldn't even have
Yeah.
watched it.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of appointment television. I don't do it anymore. I love the binge factors. So sorry, Lou. What were you going to actually ask me about the business?
No, that was great because that leads into the question. In terms of actually producing and creating this type of content, does it affect how the work gets done, being appointment television versus kind of everything packaged in the can ready to go?
Depends what specific shows you're talking about.
Right.
And well, again, like a feature, you're going to shoot you just opened up a huge conversation. Because Mandalorian is done completely different than anything ever in the world.
Yeah.
Because that would have had to been done on dozens of locations.
Yeah.
And they would have had to wait for sunrises, and they would have had to wait for weather, and they would have had to done, that thing would have taken forever. But they could go in, shoot this scene, and say, okay, put up the next scene, and it just rolls in. And you're in a completely another location with a different day. You know, you can do a sunset shoot for 5 hours.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt you because, again, not being in the industry and the pros, I saw I'm picturing it in my head. It looked like a giant room with a bunch of green screen around it. Is that what you're talking about when you said they did it differently?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it for Gloss because I know he believes it's real.
It is real.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole technical side of it. There's some great BTSs you can watch about it, but it's called The Volume, and it's the first. It's a video game. I mean, they took the video game technology and applied it to, and both of these guys are, Frank and Gloss are both very sophisticated camera ops in the new tech world. So for old shooters and cinematographers, it was kind of a, holy crap, we don't have to worry about posting reflections in the helmet later on because they're actually there because the scene is actually there.
Right.
So, you know, again, I don't want to go too deep into the tech.
Yeah.
But normally in a film set, everybody's seen a film set. There's big lights everywhere. You can only shoot this way. Then everything gets repositioned, and your cameras move. And there's hours between the same scene shot different ways.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the end result was a magnificent feature. And I have to thank Gloss and Frank for making me watch it because it was incredible.
Yeah, I'm glad you did because I'm sorry, Lou.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I'm glad you did, Joe, because it's funny. In between episodes, Joe would give me calls because number one, you know, I know you're not an extensive Star Wars fan, so you always call up with a question, which was great because I love answering them. And number two, we would kind of get into a little bit of the technical part, and I know you didn't want to go too deep into that, but like you said, like you can shoot a 5-hour sunset, and not only are you sitting on location, you know, in the studio in the volume, but you're getting all that interactive light, you know, that you can't get for 5 hours, even if, you know, if a cloud rolls through or something like that. You know, you're getting all that interactive light hitting the helmet, hitting all the actors, and the actors now they have something to act with. It's not you're not on a green screen set. You have an environment around you, and you're seeing these things happen. So I thought that was the coolest part as well.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. And I kind of started watching it. I'm about 4 episodes into it, and I actually saw that Baby Yoda, who I thought was just this meme thing that they were making fun of the real Yoda until I actually watched Mandalorian, and I realized it's a really cool character in the show.
And Glass, how many of them are there that they made?
How many what?
How many, like, if you want to call them actors, how many different Yoda actors are there, the Baby Yodas?
The Baby Yodas. Well,
They made like
it's
three
just
different ones,
they
right?
made yeah they did. Well, they have the one that's fixed in that little egg thing that floats. Then that's you're only controlling the head, the arms. Each one has different functionalities. For different scenes. So sometimes he's walking on the ground, sometimes he's being carried, and then it's just a very basic puppet, and they add life to him just by adding sound effects. And then there's another one where he is. Actually, I'm not sure how many there are, but yeah, there's a variety of them. They're all used for different settings and different scenes, and they all have different functionalities. So
And
yeah,
they're like,
those puppet guys, they did a great job. It's so
well, they're
cool.
puppets
I'm
and
so
they're like,
fascinated by it.
sorry. They're sorry, man. They're like all robot. Like one of them I know is a robotic one. Like it's controlled by a
Yeah.
controller, like a robotics controller.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
Lou,
would probably be really good at that.
Don't let Frank skate that quickly with saying robotics controller.
Go ahead,
Have
get
him,
him.
because there's a whole lot that gets involved in that, and he just did this to robotics controllers, dumbasses.
It's just your thumbs. Robotics is all that's all in the thumbs.
Make him explain that a little bit more.
Frank, a little bit more, please.
Well, I mean, it's like the thing of like any video game controller. Actually, you know what? It looks more like, because I remember when we watched the behind the scenes, it probably looks more like the old like RC cars, like the big square kind of controller where that looks like a big radio antenna, which are what a lot of drone controllers also look like. Mm-hmm. There's actually probably one sitting back there. But yeah, so they're like more of a square, and they have the two sticks that you control with, and then you would different buttons and whatnot, but they would program the Baby Yoda to be like, okay, when I move this lever up with my right thumb, his hand's going to go up, or when I click this thing or pull this trigger down, his eyes are going to blink, or his mouth's going to move in a certain way. So it took puppeteering to a just a way more advanced level, because it's not sticks on their hands and somebody hiding behind them in a green screen and moving that around, which they also do have that. That's what I was saying. There's like three different ones.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, thank you for giving me the updates on that. There's so much more to that show than one can really imagine. I can't wait to watch the rest of the series. So let's move to the next topic, and I have a kind of rhetorical question, but if anybody wants to guess, feel free to guess. Here's the question: what does ham? What? Too early. Foul.
I'm sorry. Guess.
Okay, easy. Ready? What does ham, steak, and wax have in common?
I'm a vegan. I have no idea.
I feel like I should know this.
Wax. That's vegan. No? Okay. Well, they can all be found together in Brooklyn at Peter Luger's. So what am I talking about?
Hope you're not eating wax.
Yeah. Recently, when we're up to, I think, 50% in New York. We're in New York. 50% restaurant occupancy. And when it turned 35% restaurant occupancy, the creative owners of Peter Luger said, what are we going to do to get things going, to get this restaurant kind of jump-started again? So what they did was really fascinating. It was a great video. If you can find it online, definitely watch it. They called up Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, and they said, you got any figures laying around that you can send us? So they did. So they sent John Hamm. They sent Audrey Hepburn. They sent Al Roker. And they sent Michael Strahan. And I said, wow, this is the most awesome thing in the world. They put him in the restaurant. They sat him at some tables, and they had people come in, and it was just a real interesting thing. So what I was thinking about was, what's your favorite steakhouse? Scott.
Well, but number one, I want to say I think they could do a little better than that. Like, I want to say like Frank Sinatra. Like if I'm sitting on a table with Frank Sinatra eating a steak at Peter Luger's, like I think I did something right. Even if it's waxed, whatever. Like I lived in Hoboken for a while. Put me on a table with him.
That's funny.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Joe was generous enough to used to take the crew out to Peter Luger's after a season, and that's the extent of my Peter Luger's knowledge. I haven't really gone there outside of that, but oh my God, man, I would go back. And I think that's a creative idea. It's I feel like it's a little creepy, maybe. If I'm kind of sitting there. I'm enjoying my Brussels sprouts, and I got a little bit of mac and cheese on the side, and I look to my left, and Al Roker's kind of just frozen in time staring at me. I don't know if I would love that, but I think I think it's a good creative way to kind of fill the restaurant, you know.
Yeah,
So why
yeah,
not? Why not? Good idea,
yeah.
Peter Luger.
The one of the women was so excited when she first walked in the video. She's like, "Oh my God, look at that! Stray's here, so we're back. You know, we're coming back." And then she saw Holly Golightly, who's the character from Breakfast at Tiffany's, which was Audrey Hepburn, and she said, "Well, obviously, it's got to be something wrong. She's been dead a long time from now." But I wanted to talk about Strahan and creativity and how you move things around to make things better. And Joe, you and I spoke about this a little bit 2 weeks ago, just in passing. It's very difficult to make the transition from player to on-air talent to the top of the stratosphere of on-air talent, you know, filling in for, you know, what Michael's doing now. Well, how does that happen?
Michael's Michael.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
he's an anomaly. He's a family friend that, you know, Frank and I know like a guy. He's just one of us.
Right.
And then he's, you know, one of the biggest celebrities. But for every Michael, there's hundreds, thousands that can't make that transition. And then once you make the transition, you got to step out of sports, which is where their expertise is. That's very, very difficult.
Right.
The only misstep Michael had was when he tried to do episodic work and act. That show was not very good.
I didn't see it. I didn't see
Yeah,
it.
you shouldn't have. But everything else, he's just him. That's who he is. That,
Yeah.
you know, it's right. Blas, Frank.
He's a big personality. He's a likable guy, and he's funny. I mean,
Yeah.
and he has no. He's very, very comfortable being on camera. But he was even like that when he played.
Yeah.
I mean, I was young then still, but I mean, you can tell that he was a goofball, liked being mic'd up. I remember listening, you giving me actually headphones sitting in the crowd while he was mic'd up.
Wait. Tell that story a little bit.
Ooh.
No?
I got to when I was young, when I would go to games, I mean, I
Yeah.
was like young at that time, probably like 10, 12 years old.
Not even.
Yeah, but the crew would mic up players like
Right.
early on, but I mean, not edited and not put together. It's not the final product. This is just the player has a mic on during the game. I have the receiving end and headphones on, so I'm just listening to them. What's going on an NFL field, which is
Great.
sometimes it was wild, and then you get like Tiki who like didn't talk ever
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
You just hear like him getting beat up in between the tackles. But
That's
Strahan
correct.
did not stop talking the entire game.
That's crazy. I want Scotty and Frank, this is to you guys, and then I'm going to go to Joe.
Please call him Glaz.
Scotty.
Sorry.
I keep thinking Star Trek
Sorry.
every time you say Scotty.
Scotty!
I
Scotty.
like Scotty. I like Scotty.
Not
God.
many people call me Scotty.
I know.
Yeah,
I don't know how I got, because your name's on the screen right here. I'm looking at it.
Is it
God,
Scotty?
as camera ops, have you guys ever worked with inanimate objects? I mean, you know, like in terms of things that should be moving that you had to film in such a way or video in such a way to make people believe that they are, or they are coming to life.
Yes. Actually, an interesting take on that is one of the rigs that we use at Good Morning America. It's an augmented reality rig. So, what that is, it's nothing physical. There's actually nothing in the room. But
Right.
when I look at my monitor, the software that they use maps out the studio, and it builds a virtual set piece basically. So say we're doing weather in the middle of the room, and I have the augmented reality rig.
Right.
When I know where it is physically in the room, even though it's not there, my actor or subject or host will walk into the shot and be describing it. No one will see anything except for me, and it's on the monitors. So this is a way. It's difficult. It's challenging in the way because it's not actually there, and I have to do a move around it and then actually into it. So what I'm seeing is, say it's a map of Florida doing the weather, like I said, and they're pointing out Orlando and then moving up the coast. I have to physically follow the host with the Steadicam, into where they're talking about that doesn't exist on set. Only I'm seeing it in my monitor.
Right.
And I have to follow
Right.
them up, and they have to interact just by looking at a monitor and pointing. So it's challenging. It's not an inanimate object. It's actually being projected on virtually into the studio and onto the image onto your screen at home. But I have to interact with it in a way that makes it look real, like it really is there. So yeah, shooting inanimate objects and things that aren't really on set it's fun, it's challenging, and it looks, the final product is always, especially with that AR rig, it's always really, really cool. It looks great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That sounds totally amazing. Frank, anything to add in terms of your specialty camera operating style?
Mine was actually very similar to what Glaz is talking about, just in a different way. So it was they do it a lot now in boxing, and that's the first time I ever did it. Was I was working for Jittercam. We were doing a Manny Pacquiao fight in Vegas,
Right.
and usually I fly the Jittercam, I do the arm, but I was operating the camera for this one, and I also didn't know that we were having this AR. Like, they would put virtual ads out that were hanging, like, so it looks like they're hanging from the ring or hanging from the lighting truss and all this stuff, and like the cards before the fights, the pre cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
With all their stats and everything. So like on TV, like Laz is saying, like something's moving, like the camera's moving towards these big banners that are hanging that look like they're kind of flowing in the wind or whatever. And so if you're at home, you think they're hanging from the lights.
Wow.
But there's nothing there. And like Glaz said as well, like only he sees that. They see it on their, like, the actual live program, but I see it in a different monitor that I'm looking at as we're going up to it, so I can, like you said, make a move around it and then, or like push through it so it seems like you're going through something like that. But yeah, other than that, just like the AR kind of stuff.
It's amazing. It's so amazing that we, the layman, what we see in the end product is like it's almost taken for granted. Like, oh, click, turn this TV on, turn that on, and oh, look at this, isn't that great? It's there. But what goes into that is completely amazing. And Joe, I want to ask you. I know you were writing a piece, an article, or a little script for another thing you're doing for the show, and it's about actors acting with stuff that's not there. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, and I'm listening to both of them, and I was just about to say. One of the shows that we're doing for Just Saying, it's about, or at least it starts with, I had a conversation just recently with a friend of mine who's special effects out in the West Coast, and we were talking about the obsolescence of green screen, how those sets are being moved over to the volume, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden I said, that's got to be insane to be able to be an actor in a non-real environment, like if you're Star Wars or if you're, whatever, some fantasy thing, Alice in Wonderland. Those sets don't exist.
Right.
So you're an actor and you're in a green room with green boxes and green everything's green. It's a huge place. The soundstage is enormous, but it's all green. And if you're talking about animation, you also have people that aren't there. So as an actor, you got to be smoked out of your head to be able to be in the right place and pointing in the right direction and do all that. I sat there and I was just amazed, and that's what prompted this. And to just give you a little sneak on what this Just Saying's about, you have to have a tremendous imagination, and you have to be able to create a world that's not there. And then as I was thinking this through, I went, oh, wait a minute. Every single person has done this in their life. We called it pretending. When you were little, you pretended.
Yeah.
You might have been in your basement, in a barn, in a field, wherever, but you built I know Glaz built Star Wars. He was on the Death Star.
Every single day.
Still does.
Still do.
God,
Still do.
You're that committed to this, Glaz.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's what those things, when you think about it, we all make it now as adults because we've lost that ability. But when you think about it, every single person, whether you're in this business or not, has done that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry, Lou. I got off
No.
my thing, but don't forget that's on Just Saying, episode 7.
Just saying, episodes are. Be there. So I want to jump to another make-believe environment that Frank, you just left actually, and it's the basketball environment.
What?
A
Make-believe environment?
Yeah. Because we're talking about make-believe environments, and I read an article that has to do with the audio for the crowd in the basketball arenas. So nobody's there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
well, now they are. Yeah.
yeah. So now they are. The article's a little bit dated, I guess. So my bad. My bad.
No, it's not. It's not because it's not at 100%. So they still do pump in.
They're still
like yeah.
Okay. So these are my questions. I read that first of all, the whole thing was completely amazing. The guy I have my notes here because I don't want to mispronounce his name. The A1's name is Dave Gruntvig, Grundtvig, and I apologize if I didn't say it right, Dave. But you do some amazing work. One of the things that annoys me about basketball, and I spoke to Joe, is, well, there's several things. Because you guys know I'm not a sports guy. So my interpretation of basketball is they should save everybody time, make it 98, put 2 seconds on the clock, blow the whistle, and then we can go home. We're done. Because that's where all the action is. Second thing that really annoys me is that squeak sound. That squeak with it just makes me nuts. This guy Dave is the guy who did this. He actually what did he call it? He called it a underfloor mic array to bring that game feature to life. And I thought, wow, that's completely amazing. Like, who would even think of, like, why is that necessary? Anybody want to comment on that a little bit?
I'll let those guys go, and then I'll bring you back to 100 years ago.
All right, go ahead.
Let them go. They're both in those environments.
I'm not going to speak to what any of the technology behind it because that's probably one of the last things that I know about is audio.
Yeah.
But I know where they set them up. I know where they're putting them. I mean, just from working, not even just the Big East, but just working like Knicks games and Nets games and stuff all the time because they set them up all the time and they put them. It looks like they gaff them under the court. And one thing when they had those one mics for right in front of or basically ran under the rail cam at the Big East tournament because they were you had to make sure that they weren't going to disrupt our stuff. But as far as the technology, I'm not going to even touch on that with that guy. With that guy sitting in the room, I'm not touching it.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Another thing I read that seemed interesting was these guys got the actual audio from I'm going to get the name correctly. The what's the game? The forgot the game.
Space Jam?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
I was going to say Madden football, but that won't work.
A little
Also, the
inside
NBA
joke
game.
right there.
Huh?
That was a little inside joke.
Oh, sorry.
He said
Sorry.
base camp.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I said Space Jam.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's even better.
Yeah. Oh, here it is.
I think that
Let's
audio
see.
lends such another element too. Like that,
Yeah.
that audio, it kind of you don't realize that your brain connects the you're watching this, you're seeing it. Back in the day, you didn't have those mics either right on the field or right on the court or getting those squeaks or getting the crack of the bat. Like it's like the big parabolic mics you see on the sidelines of the giant or football games.
Yeah.
You're able to now hear that line set up on a football game,
Right.
Offensive, defensive line, and actually clash, and you get that, you can hear it. It makes you like in there, it really adds, another element to it. So I think that's to touch on that point a little more. I think it's important because it gives the viewer at home a sense of like being in a stadium. You know what I mean? Like you can hear the squeaks on the floor, you can hear the crack of the bat, you can hear these guys about to kill each other. So.
Yep.
I think that's why it's important too. I didn't know about under the floor at NBA games. That's really cool. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And I found my little note here. Firehouse Productions was the group that managed the sound, and they had this thing called Crowd Sound System that uses EA Sports NBA video game.
That's so cool.
That's what I was trying to think about. Then they used a live recording from Turner Sports Archives, and they mix them together, cut them apart, and they kind of get the different variations of the sound. And I thought that was really, really pretty interesting. Joe, take us back to the old days.
I'll take. Let me clear up the present day first.
Go.
My buddies are all at Firehouse. what you're all talking about is they sample. So they're digitally sampling those sounds, and then they build a cart. They have a whole playback like in the music world on a synth. I'm using a keyboard, but that's really not the case. But you can key it that way. So if you're going to go, okay, we need more floor squeak, bump, 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 floor squeak, and okay, now go here, now go here. What Glaz said is absolutely critical. And everybody knows I come from that world. I spent the beginning of my career in the music world and in that specific area. Music, sound effects support any video and make it come to life. Exactly as Glaz said. You strip that stuff out, go watch a movie with just dialogue and visuals. It's horrible. Go watch a ball game and take all that out of it. It's useless. You really don't feel the energy. You're not there. It's exactly what Glaz was talking about. You got to be part of that. So those artists who do that, there's two forms. You need the guys who capture the sound, sampling it, and then the guys who play it back. And playing that back in a live event, you can't just hit play.
Right.
You actually have to play it because you're watching the game and you're moving things in. Frank and I this year, during the midst of the height of COVID, were doing NFL games, and the stadium was empty. I've been in football stadiums at pro level football for 27 years. I've never ever been in an empty stadium when there's a pro game going on.
Wow.
It was whacked, right, Frank?
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty strange to be a part of.
You know what? I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
But I'm saying what they do, because if you're home, everybody was telling me, oh, yeah, these games aren't that bad. I thought it was going to be horrible without the crowd, without the this. Yeah, tribute to those mixers, to those guys who poured tremendous amount of work into making it real.
Right.
And it's live. Remember, this is live, so you can't write a soundtrack 2 months before. You have to play it like you're playing, in the middle of a bar somewhere. You got to play all those sounds.
Yeah.
But in the stadium, it was insane. We were up on the mezzanine where our set was built, and you could hear people talking, players, coaches, talking down on the bench.
Wow.
It was such a creepy feeling, but it really underscores how important those guys are and how little credit they get. I mean, these two get credit, these two. That's Frank and Glaz. Camera ops are the glory position. Everybody knows them, everybody sees them, and everybody knows what they're doing. It's a great shot, or oh, look at that cool camera, blah, 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 blah. But the sound guys are the ones who really reinforce that whole experience.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done.
No,
That's why I'm a camera guy.
They're like lead guitar players in a band. The sound guys are the bass players and the drummers who without, there's no music.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
That was well said, Joe. Yeah, I agree with that because it's kind of like a live concert if you think about it with the sound guys. They're putting on not just is there a professional football game or basketball game going on in front of you, but they're providing like the sound. Like they're providing those little extra nuances in audio. And that was well said.
Dave, our A1 sound guy, had an interesting quote, and I think this sums up what you guys were just talking about. He said, because of the whole COVID thing and the way the whole production world has to now operate as a, cross-pollinated matrix of people moving around together, he said that now the studio is part of the game and the game is part of the studio.
Perfect.
And I thought that was pretty interesting.
It's perfect. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty interesting.
Yep.
I want to move on to another little question. When I say the word craftsmanship, where does your mind go? What are you thinking about?
Beer.
Beer. Good.
Beer making.
Good.
Tools from Sears.
Tools from Sears, Craftsman, good.
Sears.
I was gonna say Lowe's.
I don't even think Sears exists anymore.
They don't.
And it's a shame.
Tools.
And it's a shame because Craftsman tools are what, Joe? Guaranteed for
life.
And there's no Sears anymore. There's no Sears. So that caught my eye, my eye and my ear, the whole craftsmanship thing. And I read this article by McKinsey. It was a whole report on agile businesses using and adapting the craftsmanship model. I'm like, what is this craftsmanship model that they're talking about? And essentially, the whole craftsmanship model is a model of mentorship. And I know, Joe, you pride yourself on being a great mentor, which you are to many, many people who are now very, very successful in the industry, as you are, and your companies are and have been. It's a process. It's a chance. It's an art. It's a talent, and there's a lot of trust and a lot of intuitive recognition to let people do the types of things they need to do. Because without the hands-on mentorship learning stuff, people really don't accelerate their growth. And I wanted to just kind of back off a little bit and kind of throw the hosting position a little bit to you. And I wanted you to talk to Scott a little bit, and also Frank, who you've mentored, as a Scotcher Ferro, you guys share the last names.
He's like a father.
Yeah, exactly. But he was also a great business mentor, because one of his greatest quotes were, "I don't care if you're my son or not, you're out if you're not good." And it's even harder for Frank because he's under the double microscope. But I wanted to focus a little bit on Scott and how,
Please call him Glozzy.
God, I'm sorry. We're changing the name on the screen. Yeah, it's on Gloz. Focus on Gloz and tell the story a little bit, Joe. How he came in, Scott. Go back and forth a little bit, guys. I want people to understand how the process of getting into this business, which seems almost impossible to get into, can actually happen for people.
Me tell his story?
No, yeah, you guys just talk about it a little bit. Like, Scott, how did you get to Joe?
It's actually interesting.
How did you get to Joe? Gloz.
So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Strand. And obviously, I didn't go from a sports position into a, Good Morning America news anchor of the world position like he did. But anyway, I came out of sports, not really knowing what kind of career I wanted to pursue. And Frank and I met in college. Frank was a good friend of mine. We met in college when I was playing baseball. And I came out, and Frank explained to me what he did and, how he worked with the Giants, how he shot camera. Number one, this was appealing to me because Giants are my favorite football team. I was like, yeah, hell yeah. Why not go work, for Joe and the Giants and get to see the interactions with the camera guys and the players and the media? Because this was me pre-TV. I didn't know how all that worked. Right. So it was intriguing to me because I was, I was an athlete. I was always a leader my whole life. I was captain of the baseball team in college. Close the yearbook. I get it. But I fell into this position where I was able to be creative and be, who I was, and then learn from obviously the best, some of the best in the business, which was Ferro Productions. And they took me from being a college kid, didn't know what I wanted to do, brought me through the ranks, taught me to shoot camera, taught me a lot of technical aspects of television and what my job was going to be like moving forward. And then I just started to love it. And, it was fun. My day-to-day activities were going to the locker room, shooting with the team, shooting on the field. I practiced with Frank every day at training camp outside and in the August heat, learning how to shoot camera outside. And it was fun. It was awesome. It was a really attractive career. So yeah. Joe mentored me all the way through that. I think I was at the Giants for like 4.5 years or something like that, learning everything, learning a little bit of everything, but mostly camera work. After the Giants, I had an interesting opportunity. And stop me if I'm going too fast here. But after
you know what?
Giants,
I'm going to stop you. I am going to stop you, Gloz, because I want to ask Joe a question about that.
Okay.
Joe, it takes a lot of guts to give a guy who doesn't know anything but is learning and probably, learns fast, a camera. I mean, does that really happen?
Yeah, and I have to pass the baton here because Gloz wouldn't have even got to me if it wasn't for Frank. Mm-hmm. And Frank also is astute enough to know, don't bring me garbage.
Yeah.
Because it's going to fall back on him. So we are very protective about who we recommend. So Frank has a good eye for spotting talent. And that is the one, other than me liking to exploit cheap labor, which is what mentorship is for me.
Yeah.
The real thing there is, and again, it's I guess it's from being around pro sports for so long and you hear coaches yap, 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 yap. One of the things I picked up
Right.
was you don't draft the position, you draft the talent, you draft the athlete.
Interesting.
And I've applied that to every business I've ever had. And honestly, even before, when I was in the music world, those businesses, I always went for personality. I went for somebody who's going to gel with our team.
Right.
Because we live together, we're interwoven.
Right.
I mean, it becomes a family, it's a community. And if you don't get along and if you don't respect each other, we're dead in the water.
Right.
One wrong person in that group will kill the group. But let me go back to Frank. Why did you think Scott had a shot?
Look what I started.
Definitely for two big reasons. One, I mean, him and I got along. I want to say right when we met, but we didn't. Like the first time we met, because we had met through a mutual friend. But then like after that, like him and I have very similar personalities, and now like the same type of work ethic and the way we do stuff, the same humor, which is a big thing. And it was also like we developed a very good friendship, because I don't want to out. There was a time when Gloz was not playing baseball for one semester, so him and I became very close friends, and that's kind of when we talked a little bit more about what he really wanted to do and switching careers and all that kind of stuff, and what he was looking for down the road. And I don't know, it was just like you said, it's just you want to work with people that you enjoy being around, and like you can teach. If they're willing to learn all that stuff, then you can
Right.
teach them. And I knew he learns very quickly. Plus the fact that, and he said it earlier, like he's a leader. You want
Right.
that kind of you want those people around you. I mean,
Right.
and definitely we definitely understood each other from that aspect, because we both, again, the sports analogy coming out of the sports world. I mean, obviously you need soldiers as well, but so yeah.
Perfect. Gloss, so you had that experience. A unique opportunity came to you. Continue.
Yeah, so after the excuse me, after the or actually during the Giants, Frank and I worked the DNC, the Democratic Convention, 2016, right? Yeah, 2016. We were down there, and there was an issue with a jib that we were doing.
Right.
Jib. Frank was operating the jib, which is, if you're not familiar with a jib, it's a camera on an arm, swings, gets interesting angles. I won't get into it, but that's what we were doing. I was Frank's assistant. A news network nearby had an issue, and Frank and I had mutual friends because, the industry is kind of small. A lot of people know each other. We went over, fixed it. Long story short, I started talking with them. It was, I met a couple of people that were important to me over there. It was CNN, and they, I made my contact there. And while we were on site, I saw a Steadicam, kind of the first time I ever saw it in action. And I was like, I remember looking at Frank. I was like, yo, that's pretty cool. Like, I never really saw it go. I knew what it was, but I never saw it being operated, getting these interesting angles, moving all around, doing these big 360 moves, flipping upside down, going low angle, high angle, what have you, So that caught my attention immediately. And I looked at Frank. I was like, hey, like, do you have any idea what goes into learning this?
Right.
And he's like, you kind of got to put yourself in the right position at the right time. So I ended up moving into a position at CNN where they had a Steadicam that they weren't using all the time. So I kind of just went to my superiors and I was like, hey, can I pick this up and just put it on and learn it? And they were like, yeah, why not? Go for it. So I was like, all right, cool. So I practiced a little bit on my downtime all the time, every day. I went into the studio, picked it up. It took me like 2 months just to figure out how to stand with the thing, because it's all over the place. It's a balancing act with the Steadicam system. So yeah, long story short, my career advanced. I started on Anderson Cooper's show. Shot my first. I'll never forget the first time I got a red tally with Steadicam. I was shaking my boots. I was so nervous, because and you can't be shaking or else your camera's gonna go all over the place. So I was definitely nervous, but yeah, I'll always forget that, or I'll always remember that journey. And then once I got to that point where I remember my first good shot, and I was like, that was cool. Like I saw it live. I saw it on TV. I was like, yo, I just did that. It was such an easy walk. Like, I could pick it up right now and do that easily. But back then it was like, holy shit, look what I just did. It was awesome.
Wow.
So yeah, I fell in love with that camera system. Learned the ins and outs. Long career, or not long career, but a few years later, I found myself on the set of Good Morning America, shooting with Strahan and that crew, and it was a lot of fun. I honestly I really really enjoyed it. It's a way for me to bring out my creativity. A Steadicam operator, in a sense, is a director on set.
Right.
Not from the control room. You get your cues from the control room, but I'm walking around in a specific way where if I have a little conversation with the talent or the host beforehand,
Right.
we get a better sense of it's a little more synergy there. So yeah, going back to where I'm at, I was at Good Morning America. I was operating. Got a handful of shows in my pocket. Went to Good Morning Football. Started to really expand, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
What happened when COVID hit? And
Yeah.
I know I took that journey verbally just now pretty quickly with you, but COVID hit, and there goes Steadicam. It ceased to exist. It's literally stopped. This career that I took so long to build. I got certified by Steadicam at Able Cine in Brooklyn, which is a rental house, and they have lessons. And it just went away. So
That's something.
yeah. It was a crazy journey. I still love doing it. I haven't done it in a while. I've had it on here and there, but the studio's closed. So yeah, had to pivot. But going back to what Frank said about recognizing talent and getting along, and that's what it's all about in this industry. I feel like
I hear you.
if I like to work with somebody, that's the person I want to bring in. So
Joe,
yeah.
Joe, I have a question. Is Scott's trajectory? Scott, I can't stop this. This is hysterical. Is Glaz's trajectory a usual one for somebody who's come through a mentor system and then into the industry?
I actually fell asleep halfway through, so I don't know what he said. I don't really have that kind of attention span anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so ask the question again, Lou. I'm sorry.
So the question again is if you heard anything during your sleep, is his trajectory from coming from mentorship, learning nothing, to actually getting some skills and then improving those skills, is that the path somebody would take to get into the business?
Yes. There's two things you need. You need to have the skill. So that means you need to have the aptitude to learn the skill. And then you need somebody of quality to teach you the skill. Then that person has to want to give you that skill.
Yeah.
This is a business that we covet our skills.
Yeah.
So you don't want to start developing competition. So getting the skill is, you have to go through those steps. And then on the other side, and Scott was talking towards this, is the community or your network or your contacts. People look at the entire entertainment industry and think it's vast.
Right.
It's not. I mean, I know people on all aspects, on every part of the entertainment business, not just television or just music or just Broadway. I know them all. And you know what? They all cross over. One bad rep and you're dead.
Yeah.
But just the other way, we share each other. The quality gets passed along. So when Frank says this guy's worthwhile, there's no question that guy's worthwhile because it came from Frank.
Right.
Frank's career is built the same way. I mean, it came from, everybody looks, and I mean, now it's kind of gone, but, you're the son of. So, oh, you must be good. That's usually bullshit.
Right.
Most sons of suck.
Yeah.
Because they're the sons of. They get a pass.
Yeah.
Frank fought tooth and nail to develop his skills. He understands how to network. He understands the work ethic. And both of these guys have tremendous work ethic, especially for the generation that they came through. As these generations keep coming at me, they get shittier and shittier.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to work.
Yeah.
I wrap cables.
Yeah.
When a gig's done, I'm at the highest level that I should be at. And I don't go out with all the execs and drink. I'll go wrap cable. Because you lose those roots, you're dead. As God said, COVID hit and leveled the playing field.
Yeah.
We were all out of work. across the board, every level, top to bottom.
Yeah.
And and it's that resurgence. But if you're good, you're good, and if you got that rep, it's going to go. And I'm sorry, Lou. I almost talked as long as Gloss.
No, that's good. That's good. I wanted to have Frank and Gloss talk a little bit about what they have been doing in terms of ambition and COVID and whatnot, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about Urban Visuals, your company.
Sure. Yeah, Frank, you can butt in whenever you want. So basically, yeah, back in 2018, I kind of was reading about the industry, and Joe's mentorship always kind of taught me, like, you want to always have say yes to this, say yes to as many things as you can so you can meet all these people. And I want to touch real quick. I want to move back a second. I learned everything I learned from Joe kind of set us up for this. Like Joe, like being at Ferro was more valuable than any formal education I probably could have got, because they taught me these skills that you needed to progress the career. So, Lou, touching on Urban Visuals. Urban Visuals is Frank and I's company. It's a creative content studio, and we work with brands and restaurants and all these different people to help promote their brand through creative video. So that's what it is. Started as a hobby, started as a side thing for me to do to make a little extra money. And recently, through not just need of work, but through motivation to wanting to be more of an entrepreneur, I've been pushing more to do this full time. So yeah, it's a creative content studio. We work with all clients to help them boost their brand, promote their brand.
Awesome. So the bigger message I'm getting, Joe, is that there seems to be a system to get the skills, and once you get the skills, you need to be plugged into some sort of a community to help apply those skills.
Right.
And that's the model that you created with FerroCity, which is an unbelievable opportunity. As a matter of fact, Urban Visuals is one of our first founding corporate members, and we're glad to have them on board. Joe, you want to talk a little bit about community and knowledge and how that passes back and forth and advances not only the people on both ends of it, but the community in and of itself?
Yeah, and I'll do it rather quickly because, and thank you for thinking it's me. It's not. Nothing I've ever accomplished is me.
It started with you, and we were kind enough to help.
The concept is literally just what we've been talking about for the last 3 days here.
Right.
Is that it is that you need to be together. I mean, we bust each other. Obviously, there's a camaraderie here, that unity. But I get asked thousands, not literally thousands of times throughout my career, I need to get into this business. How do I get in? Glaz's story is not unique. Glaz's story is the norm. Is people trying to figure out how to get it.
Right.
And it still happens. So FerroCity was that evolution. FerroCity was me saying, there's a bigger need here that I can't personally fill. There's so much talent out there. There's so much great stuff out there that these people need to know how to get in.
Right.
So we're going to give you the education. We're going to give you the community. We're just going to put up what you need. And then it's up to you then to take it and run with it. Like we keep referring back to Frank. He wasn't given anything. Yeah. He took it and ran with it. And that's why his career is what it is. But that isn't, people don't get that opportunity. So that's what we wanted to go ahead and do. That's what we wanted to build. We're not going to give everybody a career. We're not going to give everybody anything. We're going to provide the opportunity. And then that usually singles out the ones with passion, the ones with desire. Glaz is speaking pretty cavalierly about how he went from here to here to here to here. The truth is there's those risks involved. You got parents involved. You got people around who are saying, okay, enough. So you don't have benefits? How come you don't have benefits? Wait, how come you don't have security? Is this a real job?
Yeah.
But wait a minute. When this show's over, When this tour's done, you're out of work. You're 40 years old. How could you be out of work?
Yeah.
That's what we try to hover them around, is that don't worry about that. We'll get you from one place to another. We'll introduce you to somebody else. And we go top to bottom. I'm spending a good part of my career now taking advice from people 20 years younger than me with no experience.
Yeah.
Because it's their vision, it's their world. I need to figure out how I apply what I learned into that world. How do I give you what I know to make you survive better in that? And it's not, again, I'm not just saying me. You guys have all heard me say 100 times, I'm embarrassed about getting my Emmys. I'm embarrassed by the nominations. I'm embarrassed by any awards I've ever gotten, because this isn't golf. There's no single thing I can do that should necessitate me getting all the accolades for it. So that's how I approached all of this, is let's open the floodgates, get all the losers and the people who don't know how to work, don't have any creativity, don't have any skills, get them out of the way.
Right.
And let's just flood the whole place with real talented, creative people who will build their own industry in their likeness.
Brilliant, buddy. Brilliant.
Thanks.
And you're welcome. And with that, I think we've spent enough time for today, about an hour and change. Guys, thank you so much. Gloz, not Scott. Gloz, thank you. Frank, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Shameless plug for Urban Visual. They're awesome. Their shit is great.
It is.
Coming from me, for me to say anybody's good is big news. Check them out. Go find their site. Look them up. You're not going to be disappointed. They might be better than me.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. Yeah, wow.
That's awesome.
Key word there, might.
Scott, what's the website?
The website is www.theurbanvisuals.com. And if you have a business brand or any type of product, we will help you promote it through creative video.
Did you really just say www?
World Wide Web, okay? www.disneyplus.com. All right, watch The Mandalorian.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Double click the Internet Explorer icon on your home screen.
First, you got to dial up.
You can reach them on AOL.
Yeah.
All right,
Thanks, guys. We'll see you all next time.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.